We're following developing news this morning. Former UFC champion John Bones Jones will not be in the octagon as scheduled for this Saturday's fight against Daniel Cormier. According to UFC officials, the controversial fighter has been pulled from UFC 200 due to a potential doping violation. UFC officials say a test that he took with the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency on June 16th was flagged. As of this morning, details about why have yet to be released, but UFC President Dana White did hold a news conference late last night and spoke about the findings.
He's got the chance to prove himself innocent before being called guilty, but if it's true, obviously super disappointing.
Jones has been on probation and doing community service for leaving the scene of a hit-and-run crash in 2015 in Albuquerque. Coming up at 6:30 this morning, more reaction from UFC and what Jones's would-be opponent Cormier has to say now. As of this morning, the San Pascal fire burning near Socorro stands at 50% containment. That fire started Monday on the Bosque del Apache Refuge. So far, the lightning-caused fire has burned through 720 acres, but it is not threatening homes or structures. Fire restrictions remain in effect today on the Mountain Air and Sandia Ranger districts. Forest officials say it'll take a lot of saturating rain before those restrictions can be lifted. Several trails and roads also remain closed following the Doghead fire. The closure orders could remain in effect for months. Happening today, investigators will continue their search for clues into what happened to Dylan Redwine. Today, the La Plata County Sheriff's Department says they're going to search Middle Mountain near the Cave Basin trailhead. Redwine was 13 years old when he disappeared in 2012 while visiting his father's home in Vallecito. His remains were found 7 months later. Investigators have questioned Redwine's father, Mark Redwine, but he has never been charged in his son's death.
Last year, we did name Mark Redwine as a person of interest, and that status has not changed.
Deputies have combed the area every summer. They say that they have found evidence in the case that they are not releasing. 6:04 breaking overnight. A Minnesota police officer is on leave this morning after the fatal police shooting of a black man. Police say Philando Castilla was pulled over yesterday evening during a traffic stop before eventually being shot. He was transferred to the hospital where he died. Details are still coming in right now, but the immediate aftermath of the shooting was captured by Castilla's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, on dramatic Facebook Live video. We're choosing not to show most of the video due to its graphic nature and because it may be very disturbing for some. But here is what Reynolds said right after capturing that shooting on cell phone camera.
He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know.
As Reynolds describes the scene, you can hear Castile moaning and see an officer with his gun still drawn. The video later shows Reynolds getting out of the vehicle and going to a police car. An officer is holding her daughter, who had been in the back seat and also witnessed that shooting. Today, the Justice Department is vowing to conduct a fair, thorough, and impartial investigation into the death of Elton Sterling. Sterling, a 37-year-old father of 5, was shot and killed by police on Tuesday outside a store in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Federal investigators say they plan to review videos and speak to witnesses as part of their probe. Meanwhile, the incident has sparked protests across the country. This morning, demonstrators say they won't stop protesting until justice is served. State prosecutors now have more time to build their own witness list in the trial for a teen accused of beating 2 homeless men to death. Police say Nathaniel Carrillo, along with Gilbert Tafoya and Alex Rios, used bricks, rocks, and poles to kill Allison Gorman and Key Thompson in 2014 near Central and 60th Street. Yesterday, the state argued 2 scientific experts called on by the defense should not be allowed to testify in Carrillo's case, saying the deadline to disclose who they were using as witnesses had already passed. The judge denied that request.
I think that it would be problematic to deprive Mr. Carrillo of the expert as a result of what his attorneys did.
That judge did, however, extend the deadline for the state to call its own witnesses. The trial date is set for September. Developing right now, authorities in San Diego say they are looking for this man accused of targeting 4 homeless men over the last 4 days. Police say he killed at least 2, then set their bodies on fire. This morning, one 23-year-old man is in the hospital after being beaten and set on fire. Doctors say he is not expected to survive this. Homeless people in the area say they've seen the man milling around posing as homeless himself. It's not usually considered a popular tourist attraction. We're talking about the dentist office. But this morning, a Santa Fe resident is making a business out of it, arranging trips for people to see a dentist. It's called dental tourism, after clients get a treatment plan from their local dentist. Beyond Borders Dental drives them south of Deming to the border town of Palomas, Mexico. There, they get affordable dental care at approved clinics.
We tour the clinic, we look at their sterilization procedures, and most importantly, we follow the work of our clients.
Of course, critics still question the quality of care. Beyond Borders has made 2 trips with clients to Mexico so far and plans to be making 2 per week starting this month. Tesla's autopilot feature is now at the center of a second investigation this morning. Safety regulators say they want to know if a Tesla Model X SUV was in auto drive, which lets vehicles drive themselves, when it hit a guardrail and flipped last week in Pennsylvania. Tesla says it does not believe autopilot had anything to do with that second accident. 2 months ago, a driver using Tesla's assisted driving feature was killed in a crash in Florida. A Nevada woman could be facing indecent exposure charges and more after a hit and run turned into road rage. Nevada highway troopers say this happened Thursday after the woman on camera and another driver got into an accident. After cursing and lifting her top, the other driver says the woman just took off. Police were able to catch up with her a few days later. Today, she could be facing fraud charges on top of the hit and run because police say she may be involved in identity theft. She remains behind bars this morning. Meanwhile, that video has gone viral on social media. We continue to follow developing news this morning. Former UFC champion John Bones Jones will not be in the octagon as originally scheduled for this Saturday's fight against Daniel Cormier. News 13's Sarah Yingling joins us with the very latest on what we know. Sarah?
Adam, the news came down late last night. UFC President Dana White announced at a news conference that Jones is out of this weekend's fight due to a potential doping violation. Jones was set to fight heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. Now, the fight scheduled for Saturday will not take place. During a late-night press conference, Cormier expressed his disappointment.
I put myself in a position where I felt like I could win this fight. So to hear something like this it's very sad from a competitive standpoint, from a financial standpoint. There are a number of ways in which this is disappointing.
UFC officials say the potential violation came from a June 16th test the United States Anti-Doping Agency administered. They say Jones apparently tested positive for a banned substance. As of this morning, officials have not said what the substance was. Jones is serving 120 hours of community service. That includes more that a judge tacked on after Jones violated his probation after leaving the scene of a crash in April of 2015. Just last month, a judge gave Jones an extension until August 15th to wrap it up. In the meantime, Dana White says he's still hoping to get another opponent for Cormier on Saturday.
It stings real bad for Daniel Cormier. You know, this is devastating to him, his family, and I'd like to make a fight if I can.
Eventually, the UFC says Jones will have the chance to be retested, but officials say that rarely changes the results. Adam?
All right, Sarah, thanks. White also stressed during that news conference that Jones does have the chance to prove himself innocent before being called guilty. No word this morning on if the potential doping violation will affect his extension or community service hours. The defense and prosecution will soon get to know more about potential jurors in the murder case against the Albuquerque police officers who shot and killed homeless camper James Boyd. The changes come after a national nonprofit sent out a mailer around Albuquerque that raises money for the officers' legal defense funds. It detailed the events the day that Boyd was killed by former officer Dominique Perez and retired officer Keith Sandy 2 years ago. It included an 8-page letter written by Perez's wife with her version of what led to the killing. In an agreement just reached by both sides in the case, Perez's attorney agreed to hand over the names of everyone who received it.
No one is above the law.
Special Prosecutor Randy McGinn can also ask potential jurors if they or any of their family and friends have ever given to any defense fund to help Perez or Keith Sandy with their legal bills. In return, the defense gets to ask potential jurors a new question too. That's if they attended any of the APD protests sparked by the Boyd shooting or know anyone who did. The teen accused of shooting and killing Albuquerque bartender Stephen Garrick in his driveway is beginning his sentence this morning on a different charge. 17-year-old Jeremiah King was facing charges as a juvenile for resisting arrest and violating his probation. A judge is now allowing him to go to treatment for up to a year. Prosecutors say last summer King was one of 6 teens breaking into cars and homes when he fatally shot Garrick. He's charged as an adult in that case. Happening today, the FBI director could answer questions from lawmakers about why he decided not to recommend charges against presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. House Republicans have summoned FBI Director James Comey to Capitol Hill today. Yesterday, U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch announced that she accepted Comey's recommendation and said the case would be closed. Clinton was under investigation for her handling of classified emails through her personal account. We checked overnight, and a petition to include former New Mexico Governor and Libertarian Gary Johnson in national polling is starting the day with just over 5,700 signatures. The Change.org petition calls the Commission on Presidential Debates, or notes that the Commission requires a candidate to poll at least 15% nationwide in order to participate in a debate. Johnson was at 10% in the latest Fox News poll.
Investors Business Daily this afternoon came out with a new poll at 11%, which is really, that's very heartening. Only chance we have of winning is to be in the presidential debates.
Johnson also ran for president on the Libertarian ticket in 2012, but only nabbed about 1% of the vote. Johnson was New Mexico's governor from 1995 to late 2002. In just hours now, the state's health exchange is holding a grand opening of a new location of its headquarters. The new Be Well NM Albuquerque Enrollment Assistance Center is on Manal near Louisiana, and it's expected to open during a special ribbon cutting ceremony at 1 this afternoon. The center is replacing the old one, which was on San Pedro Northeast. Be Well NM's annual enrollment begins in November. 11 airports across New Mexico are preparing to spend federal money for improvements. Airports across the state are sharing $6.5 million for maintenance and construction projects. The federal grant money will pay to fix runways, construct buildings and fences, and make safety improvements. Gallup Municipal Airport's getting the most, more than $3 million for runway work. Time now 6:37. A woman in Maryland is beginning her sentence this morning after pleading guilty to poisoning a coworker. That crime was caught on camera. 28-year-old Luz Lemonfield admitted to pouring a skincare product into another woman's drink. The product contained several toxic ingredients. After she drank the water, the other woman got sick and was rushed to the hospital. Lemonfield pled guilty, and a judge sentenced her to 10 days behind bars. That's in addition to 18 months probation. According to Lemonfield's attorney, she did it in retaliation for the coworker spitting in her lunch. The attorney says she did not intend to cause her injury. Animal welfare officials in Texas are still trying to identify the person seen on camera throwing a puppy into a store. Video shows this man walk the dog to the door before grabbing it by the scruff of its neck and tossing it inside. Store employees rushed to help the frightened puppy while the suspect was seen taking off on a skateboard. That puppy's okay. He's expected to be put up for adoption. The suspect could be facing animal cruelty charges if he's caught.